Hello and welcome to another episode of Snakes Territory. I'm Jesse Friedman alongside Jack Sommers, and Jack, the Diamondbacks win a game once again as they beat the Philadelphia Phillies tonight by a final score of 4-3. And the offense was able to do just enough in this one, Jack, but the real story was really Zac Gallen, who went 7 innings in this game. He allowed 3 runs. 2 of those came very early on in the first inning, wound up striking out 9 in this game. He has been excellent since the trade deadline, and that trend very much continued here tonight.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to throw a quick shout out. Thank you to all our listeners that hung with us. We're a little bit late starting tonight. We can blame the other writers and Torey Lovullo because during the beginning of Torey's press conference, somebody flipped the phone on to the ASU game. And of course, they kept calling timeouts prior to kicking the winning field goal. So we had to wade through that before we got started with Torey, and that's why I'm so late. So sorry about that.
Yeah, people care way too much about ASU sports sometimes, Jack. I just don't get it. But yes, the story in the baseball world tonight was the Diamondbacks beating the Philadelphia Phillies 4-3. Jack, this was mathematically not a must-win game, but it really was a must-win game. For the Diamondbacks to really have any hope in this thing, they really had to win this game. We'll talk more specifics a little bit later about where they stand in the wild card race. But they were able to do that. And I mentioned earlier the offense did just enough. Ildemaro Vargas came through with what wound up being a really big hit in the 6th inning, a 2-out RBI single that turned a 3-3 tie into a 4-3 D-backs advantage. It hasn't been flashy for Ildemaro Vargas really at all, Jack, but his numbers continue to be pretty solid. He's really been everything the D-backs could have hoped for since they picked him up.
Yeah. A special note about Zac Gallen and his outing. He was sick tonight. He actually was not feeling well, for most of this week. And he said, it should have been evident that the way the game started for him with the leadoff walk and then hanging a curveball to Schwarber, who drilled it for a double. And, he had a fight to get out of that inning. But it's kind of funny because during the game, Jesse texted me and said, Gallen's got really good stuff tonight. And so immediately I went and double-checked everything on Savant, and his fastball velocity was up 1 mile per hour. His induced vertical break was up from 17 to 18. He had a ton of swing and miss on the curveball. There was some hard contact on the fastball. He had a good changeup tonight. And so I asked him, I'm like, that's kind of odd that you would tell us that you were sick considering you had such good stuff. And the upshot was, yeah, it would have been even better if I wasn't sick. So that's pretty interesting.
Gallen, he really did have good stuff in this game. I mean, he had 14 whiffs, 22 called strikes, a 35% called strike plus whiff rate, which is one of my favorite numbers to look at start to start. 30% is really good. So for Gallen to be at 35 in this game, that's really exceptional. 10 of those whiffs, Jack, came on the knuckle curve. It feels like it's been mostly changeup for him lately as his go-to out pitch that's generated most of the swing and miss. But I think we've known for a few years now that Gallen, when he's at his best, his curveball is really his go-to pitch to put hitters away, and that pitch was very much there for him tonight.
Yeah. Great, once again, to see him pitch this way. He's got one more start out of the last 7. As he said today, we're all pulling on the same rope, and, I'm just got one more start to try to contribute and help this team win. And that start is going to come against the Dodgers, I believe, on Thursday. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see how he closes out the season. We've talked about this quite a bit. I think, the way he has pitched, I made some bad jokes earlier in the year about every time he pitches, he loses a Lamborghini. Well, he's getting them all back and then some. I mean, the way he's pitched over his last 9-10 starts, I think, is really testament to his resolve to figure things out, figure out his delivery, and get back on the right track. So kudos to Zac Gallen. Congrats to him. Hopefully this second half surge by him helps the team get back into the playoffs. That would be even cooler.
I've got the numbers in front of me here, Jack. Since the trade deadline, since the Diamondbacks were not able to get what they wanted for Zac Gallen at the trade deadline, he has gone 6-2 with a 2.82 ERA, a 0.99 WHIP in 10 starts. 8 of those 10 starts are quality starts, including, of course, this game. He also, Jack, has 60 and 2/3 innings pitched in that span. So he's averaging more than 6 innings per start, just over 6 innings per start in that stretch. He's been one of the best pitchers in all of baseball here over the last 2 months, and frankly, I mean that's who Zac Gallen has been for a pretty decent portion of his career. He's been one of the better pitchers in this game, and I think even in those first few months, as we were watching Gallen struggle start after start, where things just weren't looking great for him, there was never a point where it felt like his stuff was so alarmingly different from what we've seen in the past that it was just impossible for something like this to happen. I know we have talked about on this show for sure about how his stuff has definitely dropped off in some ways, for sure. But the drop off was never all that dramatic on paper. So I think for me, it was always at least possible that Gallen would go on some kind of a run like this. And we've seen it happen now for about 6 or 7 weeks.
Yep. And, again, mea culpa, because I really didn't see him getting on this strong of a run. I was skeptical that we would see that. I just felt like his issues with location mistakes and being scared out of the zone when he did get hit, I thought he was just so mentally beat down by all of that it was going to be really hard for him to recover. But, once again, a world-class athlete has reminded me that, Major League Baseball players are better at baseball than anything I'll ever do in my life.
I guess that's true. Maybe, I don't know. Your knowledge of shoes, Jack, is pretty exceptional from what I know. So maybe there's a skill set there that could contend. I don't know.
Well, in business, it's measured in money, and I'm sure that there's, got to be over 500 guys that made more money in the shoe business than I did. So,
yeah, I guess that's fair. The big moment for me, Jack, in this Zac Gallen outing, of course, there were a number of big strikeouts and whatnot along the way. But with 2 outs in the 7th inning, Otto Kemp hit a ground ball to third base that Blaze Alexander he probably should have made the play to end the frame. Gallen would have been through 7 on, I think it was low 90s, his pitch count
right.
at that point. But then Blaze wasn't able to make that play. Kemp reaches base. And then Gallen was, in a position to try to kind of empty the tank to see if he could get that last out of the 7th inning. And if he hadn't been able to do that, I mean, this was a 1-run game at that point. Any mistake that he made could have turned this game in a hurry in the wrong direction. And he did walk. I believe it was Bryson Stott. It was a pretty good at bat by Stott. He laid off some tough pitches. But then Gallen went right back to work against Harrison Bader, who's had some big moments in this series. And he threw some fastballs right on the corner of the zone. And he ultimately got Bader to roll over the top of a cutter, which was a really nice pitch down and away. So that was impressive to see Gallen be able to kind of put the finishing touches on this outing and pick up his defense a little bit.
Yeah, he said that, by the Stott walk, he was gassed. He was just totally gassed.
Yeah.
And there was a mound visit. McCann went out and said, "No, you got one more batter. And, just buckle down. You got one more guy to get here." And Torey talked about, he knew that Zac was, pretty much running on empty, but he felt that he deserved and the team deserved to have him get that last out. And I think it played better for the way things were going to roll going forward. Obviously, with the 2 lefties coming up, Schwarber and Harper, that would have been his last batter no matter what. But also just a quick note, Blaze's mistake there or error there, that was originally ruled a base hit and then throwing error to allow him to get to second base. And then subsequently they made a scoring change and just called it a straight E5.
That was definitely the right call. I mean, I'm not going to say that was a super easy play, but that was the kind of play that a major league third baseman should be able to make. I don't know about you, Jack. I was surprised by the initial call that was ruled a hit.
Yeah, a little bit here too. It was a little similar to the play the other night where I think he should have charged. I think he should have come in and he kind of let the hop play him. He made up for it later, though. He made up for it later with a fantastic play, a diving stop with his glove up high and just, throwing a strike over to second base to get the force. So, that made up for it. I mean, that right there was a fantastic play that certainly saved a run.
Yeah, and of course the Diamondbacks go on to win this game by 1 run. So you could really view that as a game-saving play by Blaze Alexander there in the 8th inning. That was with Brandon Garcia out on the mound. Huge moment there in this game for the D-backs. I guess the big question, as always, Jack, right now is where does this put the Diamondbacks in the standings? So let's take a quick look here. This is the current picture. The San Francisco Giants, as we record, as we are live here, their game against the Dodgers has not concluded, although they are trailing the Dodgers by a couple of runs in the 8th inning for what that's worth. But yeah, the Diamondbacks are sitting here 2 games behind the New York Mets. The Mets, of course, lost their game to the Nationals in 11 innings a little bit earlier today. So the D-backs gain back that game that they lost yesterday. They're back to 2 games out of that 3rd wild card spot. But Jack, the Reds just keep on rolling as they beat the Chicago Cubs today. They have now won 4 in a row, and they are just 1 game behind the Mets, and they have the tiebreaker over both the Diamondbacks and the Mets. So the Reds are very much in this thing right now.
Yeah, it's really stunning to see them come on the way they have. Excuse me. The Diamondbacks are still in a very tough spot. If they don't have to win out, they have to come really close to winning out. I mean, I don't even think 5-2 is going to be enough to overcome. You can't count on both teams. So here's our handy dandy charts. As you can see if you're watching on YouTube, the Mets are 80-75. The D-backs are 78-77. So if the Mets were to go 3-4 the rest of the way of their 7 games, the Diamondbacks have to go 5-2. Okay, and if that's the case, then they would beat the Mets. However, the Reds must also go 3-4 if the Diamondbacks go 5-2, because even though the Diamondbacks are only 1 game behind the Reds, because the Reds hold the tiebreaker, they can't tie them. They have to be 1 full game ahead of them. So if the Diamondbacks can somehow manage to go 5-2 in the next 7 games, they need both the Mets and the Reds to do no better than 3-4. And then the chart that's here shows the various results. If the Mets go 4-3, or if either the Reds or the Mets go 4-3, the D-backs must go 6-1. If you're really looking for miracles and you want to see the Mets and the Reds go 2-5 each, and the D-backs only have to go 4-3, but you just can't count on backing in quite like that. Bottom line, some of these losses recently really hurt. They're still alive. They're not dead yet. But we are absolutely in miracle territory. I said today on Twitter, I said, look, I'm not calling this over because I don't want to get posterized and have somebody pull up my tweet later if they somehow get in. But
nobody would do that, Jack. They wouldn't do that. People don't do that.
Yes, everybody would do that. But we're in Hail Mary territory. We are in miracle territory. But miracles do happen from time to time, and we can have some fun with this for at least another game or 2, and then we'll see where we are.
The Reds going on this run, Jack, is a really big deal. I mean, the Reds they haven't swept the Cubs yet. It's a 4-game series, but they've won the first 3 games of that series against the Cubs team that is bound for the playoffs, and then they won their finale against the Cardinals before that. So it's a 4-game win streak for Cincinnati. If the D-backs were just 2 games behind the Mets at this point with 7 games to play, I mean, that wouldn't be great. You'd hope they'd have gained a little bit more ground, maybe only be 1 game out with about a week to play. But having 2 teams that you're essentially 2 games back from with 7 games to play, yeah, I mean, that's why we're talking about kind of being in Hail Mary territory here. I mean, I think in my head, Jack, the most likely outcomes, of course, anything can happen, but the most likely outcomes are you probably have to go 6-1 or 7-0 if you're the D-backs. Because as you were talking about earlier, if you go 5-2, then you need both the Mets and the Reds to go 3-4 or worse. And I just don't know if you can count on both of those teams having a losing record the rest of the way, given the way that they're playing right now. So 6-1 or 7-0 is kind of where I have my eyes set right now. If I'm the D-backs, obviously, if you're a player on the Diamondbacks right now, you're thinking about this one game at a time. You're not getting too far ahead of yourself. But for us here doing the analysis, we can kind of get ahead of ourselves a little bit and say that on paper, 6-1 or 7-0 is probably what it's going to take. And that's a really tall order against, with one more game against this Phillies team and then 3 against the Dodgers and 3 against the San Diego Padres.
We've been ahead of ourselves since April.
That's what we do. That's what we do on Snakes territory. Yeah. That's what we're doing.
Hey, I wanted to respond to something Steven said a little bit up thread, and he's absolutely correct. He said a real first baseman picks that throw from Alexander. I believe that's true. When you watch the replay, you can see Vargas's head was actually down. It was almost like he was ducking the ball because he knew he wasn't going to catch it. And Torey talked about that. Look, Vargas has made some good plays over at first base. He made a good play tonight, knocked down a pretty sharply hit ball and, got it over to Zac, who raced to first for a nice 3-1. Him and Tower have been doing the best that they can. But Torey's talked about a couple of times, I'm in the middle of a pennant race and I don't have a first baseman. You don't have a closer or a setup man either, but that's another story. But the fact is that they don't have a first baseman, an actual true first baseman that has the footwork experience and the scoops. I do think Tawa actually, though, is a little better on the scoops. I like him at first better than Vargas defensively by quite a bit. Even though there was that one ball that skipped off the end of his glove on a previous throwing error a number of games back by Jordan Lawler, that was more a product of trying to stay on the bag, and he should have come off.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I know some people are talking about our miracle territory viewpoint in the chat, and it's true. Like, things change so quickly, right? I mean, day to day, the whole picture can really change dramatically. If the Diamondbacks tomorrow, Jack, find a way to beat the Phillies and somehow both the Mets and the Reds lose, then suddenly you only need to gain one game on both of those teams in a week, and the odds wouldn't be in your favor, but maybe you wouldn't feel like it's miracle territory at that point. So obviously, this is totally a game-to-game situation. We'll be following along with all of you here. Well, we're going to circle back around to this Phillies series, talk more about this game, some final notes there, as well as some notes from yesterday's game, which did not go great for the Arizona Diamondbacks. But first, let's go ahead and do our DraftKings player spotlight. Well, Jack, James McCann did not have a 3-hit day, as we have seen from him from time to time. He's had some very, very big games in his tenure as a member of the Diamondbacks. Certainly discussed one of those on the show recently. However, James McCann was still productive in this game. He came through with an RBI double. And of course, he continues to be a big part of the Zac Gallen turnaround narrative, as Gallen really seems to have developed a rapport with James McCann behind the plate.
Zac really credited McCann for calling a great game, reading swings, as he put it. And you can just hear the way Zac talks about him. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, how he keeps him going. I think that it's really an interesting dynamic that's developed. I mean, it's clearly defensively, McCann is the favored catcher at this point in time. The way he's handling the pitchers, the way he's calling games, the control of the game that he's able to provide. He's defensively the preferred catcher, but they're not going to play him every day and just bench Gabby. That's not going to happen. The fact that he had that RBI double, that was the tying run. He also got nailed right on the elbow on a hit by pitch. And I thought his arm was going to fall off going down to first base, but he made it down there and stayed in the game. Tough as nails. Again, I just want to emphasize how hard this game is. I mean, if I got hit by that pitch or any of us got hit by that pitch, we'd just be curled up on the ball at home plate and begging for mommy.
I wouldn't, Jack. Maybe you would, but I could take it. I'm pretty sure I
Okay.
could take
All
it.
right. Let's try that someday.
Yeah. James McCann this season is now hitting 252 with a 325 on base percentage and a 764 slugging or a 764 OPS. Yeah, 5 home runs, 16 RBI, 10 extra base hits. He's really just been everything the D-backs could have hoped for as their backup catcher. I guess maybe you could view him as sort of being on the same level as Gabriel Moreno in some ways, given what you're saying about his defense. But yeah, he's been just an enormous addition to this baseball team. And I don't think the D-backs would be in this position without him. I mean, the difference between McCann and a Jose Herrera offensively is enormous. And I think even defensively, I think you'd take James McCann over a Jose Herrera at this point, just given all of the praise that we're constantly hearing from these pitchers about him. So really impressive stuff from James McCann here in the last couple months. And it'll be weird, Jack, going into next season, unless the D-backs decide to bring him back, which maybe they might. But these could be the last 7 games or so that we see of McCann in the D-backs uniform.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting off season. I mean, we're going to get to all of that when the time is right. But certainly that's been on the mind, whether or not he likes it here so much that he would just want to come back. It all boils down to money. He's a veteran. Who knows how many opportunities he's going to have to get another contract. I mean, he was in the minor leagues this year, right? And trying to find work. So at this point, if somebody's willing to offer him a couple million extra dollars than the Diamondbacks would, based on the kind of second half he's had, he's got to take it. I mean, he's not going to take a hometown discount. He's at his age, you don't give up $1 million, So the Diamondbacks are going to have to match if they. We'll find out how bad they want to keep him.
Yeah, I guess granted, they're going to have quite a few other areas to fill over the offseason. I'm not sure if a catcher behind Gabriel Moreno is going to be real high on their priority list, but McCann has really meant a lot to this team the last couple months, so we'll see. Well, the NFL season is rolling, and every touchdown can bring you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. We have a thought here on a, of course, not football related, but baseball related pick over at DraftKings. And Jack, we're sticking here with the crazy long shots, lottery ticket-esque picks over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Here I've got the Reds winning the NL pennant plus 7,500. Is this me saying that I think the Reds are going to make the playoffs and actually do this? It is absolutely not. However, it is plus 7,500, which is pretty good value. And again, because the Reds have the tiebreaker advantage over both the D-backs and the Mets, Jack, them getting into this thing is not all that far-fetched. They just have to keep the D-backs behind them. And they really have a 2-game advantage there. And then they have to make up that one last game against the Mets, which I think is totally possible given the way that they're playing right now. And as we've seen the past few years, Jack, this 6th wild card spot or this 6th playoff spot, this 3rd wild card spot, these teams have been known to make some noise in the postseason from time to time. So maybe that could be the Reds this year.
Yeah, you nailed it. The tiebreaker situation is what puts them on the map. That's what makes this a good value bet.
Yeah. There you go. So if you're looking for something over at DraftKings Sportsbook, maybe it's your first time making a pick over there. Here's a thought at what you might want to do. New customers, this one is just for you. This deal, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly, plus score over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet, plus over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
Well, if you're joining us here in the chat live here on YouTube, we really appreciate you being here with us. Be sure to drop a like on this video. That helps us out with the YouTube algorithm gods, which we are certainly all about that around here. Jack, some final notes on this 4-3 win over the Philadelphia Phillies. I guess it's not on the screen right now, but I should say that John Curtis became the 16th, no, not 16th. I got this wrong. You corrected me before we went live. The 17th Diamondbacks pitcher this season to record a save. And for those of you keeping score at home, the previous record for an MLB team was 14. And now the Diamondbacks are at 17 with John Curtis joining that list. Here is the list. This one doesn't include John Curtis just yet because it's from Baseball Reference. This hasn't updated yet. But this is quite a list, Jack. For those of you joining us on the audio-only platforms afterward, I will read these off. We have Shelby Miller, Justin Martinez, AJ Puck, Jake Woodford, Andrew Saalfrank, Kevin Ginkel, Kyle Backus, Anthony DeSclafani, Taylor Rashi, Ryan Nelson, Jalen Beeks, Ryan Thompson, Juan Murillo, Bryce Jarvis, Dre Jameson, Kyle Nelson, and now John Curtis. 17 different players, Jack, who have recorded a save. On one level, I guess you could say that's impressive to have 17 different pitchers recording a save. But at the same time, I'm not sure this is exactly the record you want to be setting. It kind of illustrates just how little stability there has been for the Diamondbacks in the back end of that bullpen.
Yeah. One thing, I'm sorry to do this, Scott Mack. I got to call out to you. You said Torey doesn't want no closer. I've got to correct you on this. Torey Lovullo absolutely prefers to have a closer. That's been kind of a point of contention between him and Mike Hazen throughout the past number of years. He prefers to have a closer. I even remember Mike kind of just saying, okay, I got you a closer when he got Paul Sewald. He spoke along those terms. Torey likes to have a closer. The problem is he seldom has one. He just doesn't really have a reliable one. And the front office has often believed in the committee approach. When they started off the season with this co-closer thing with Puck and Martinez, that wasn't Torey's choice. That was front office input. So I've talked to Torey about this, both in group scrums and one-on-one, and I can tell you unequivocally, given a choice, Torey would have a closer. However, if you go back to that list, who do you pick from that list to be your closer once Puck and Martinez went down? I think eventually Justin Martinez would have emerged as the closer, but Shelby had 10. I mean, look what he did when he had a guy that he could kind of depend on. He went to Shelby almost all the time, except for when Shelby wasn't available. He made Shelby Miller the closer. He just wouldn't say Shelby was the closer because that didn't fly politically correct or whatever with the front office, because that's not what they believe in. Every other guy on this list is 3 saves or less, because who from among this list would you call a closer? So trust me on this. Torey Lovullo would love to have one guy, put him in there as closer, and then work backwards from there. That's his preference. It's always been his preference. Don't let yourself think anything different.
I guess it was a bit of a bold move tonight, Jack, going to John Curtis in that spot, because John Curtis's most recent outing was not a particularly good one. He gave up 5 runs, 4 of them earned, didn't record an out, 3 hits, no walks, of course, in that 11th inning blow up against the Giants, where they lost the game that Brandon fought, and where Brandon fought through 9 scoreless innings. So that was his previous outing, but he's the guy that Torey Lovullo gave the ball to in this game with just a 1-run lead, and it worked out. John Curtis was able to get those 3 outs, just allowed 1 base runner in the 9th inning. It was relatively uneventful. Also worth mentioning in this game, Jake McCarthy had 3 hits. So he continues to at least look a little bit better up there. I think it makes sense the D-backs are giving him the opportunities they are at this point in the season. Switching gears, Jack, over to the Friday game, which was not so great. The D-backs lose 8-2. Ryan Nelson was pretty good, gave up 2 runs in 5 innings. Pitch count was a little high, wasn't able to pitch as deeply into the game as he usually would. There was a run put up on the board by the Phillies in the 6th inning. Jalen Beeks, Taylor Rashi, pitching in that frame, gave up that run. And then the biggest story, I think, for most people on Friday, Jack, was the 8th and 9th innings where Torey Lovullo went to Jake Woodford, who's really struggled lately, not just for 1 inning, but for 2 innings. And Woodford wound up allowing 5 runs, 4 of those earned, and very much put that game out of reach for the D-backs.
Yeah, when he came in, I had the same reaction as everybody else. Like, why Jake Woodford in a close game? Post-game, Torey said that there were several pitchers not available. The only one that he specified was not available was Andrew Saalfrank, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later because Saalfrank was not available again tonight. But I was even doubtful, like, okay, what about all the other righties? Like, wasn't there any other righty he could go to? But what he said was, they were going to need somebody from the 9th inning or the 10th, if they managed to stay tied or got a lead. So you still had 6 more outs to get at that point. But once he gave up the 3 runs in the 8th inning, I think at that point, Torey felt like that was the pivotal point in the game. It was very frustrating to see him send him back out again for the 9th, where he got hammered again. It was bad. It was not good at all. Torey was questioned on it. He gave an answer. You can go to our D-backs on SI Twitter account if you like. You can watch a short 40-second video. I didn't agree with the move. I mean, certainly I didn't. But I don't know which of the right-handers wasn't available. I know that Murillo warmed up, but I think what Torey's plan was try to get through the 8th with Woodford and the 9th with Murillo. I don't think that Curtis was available last night. I don't think that Thompson was available last night. Now you also have.
Thompson had to have been available, right? I mean, Thompson hadn't pitched since the 16th, and this was the 19th.
You can't go by that. I mean, there's other issues going on with these guys. And so, I mean, look at Saalfrank's workload. You can't just look at the Fangraphs chart, the closer chart, and say, how could that guy not be available? If he's telling you he's not available, who knows the reason why? I mean,
I'm pretty sure, with regard to Thompson, I misheard this. I'm pretty sure they talked on the broadcast about how Thompson was available yesterday, but Torey didn't want to go to him in a negative role situation.
He did say, it might have been that. It might have been Thompson or Murillo. But my point is that he was going to use one of those guys after the 8th. Look, I would have rather gone than Nabil Crismatt, even though he's supposed to be held back for a long reliever role. I don't think that Jake Woodford should be in any game where the run differential is less than 3. So, we're ahead or behind. I don't think that that's going to work out for them in a positive way. I mean, he's had some good outings, but not enough, and the total body of work is not good. So, anybody that feels critical of that, I'm on the same side of that. I'm just explaining what Torey said.
Yeah.
By the way, because there's one decision that I don't agree with, doesn't mean I'm going to agree that he should be fired over it.
One bad decision, Jack. I mean, that means a manager should be fired, right? That's how this works.
There's been more than one, Jesse. There's been a lot of good decisions too. They just, like I said last time, they don't get entered into the ledger.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I guess, and you could argue that conversation is moot because the Diamondbacks only scored 2 runs anyway, because unfortunately the score I have on the screen right now is backwards. The Diamondbacks scored 2 runs, and the Phillies scored 8 runs. I guess I'm living in some kind of fantasy land here, I guess, for D-backs fans, where they actually crushed the Phillies on Friday night. But yeah, they only scored 2 runs, Jack. Both of those runs came in the 1st inning. I guess the silver lining from Friday, if there was one, was that Ketel Marte really showed signs of life. He had a first-inning homer. He had 3 hits in the game, hit the ball hard in several different at-bats. So that was good to see, but granted, on Saturday, in tonight's game, he only had 1 hit, so he didn't exactly follow it up the way that you might want to see.
Yeah. Ketel was saying that he found this position with his hands, and, that he was feeling great in BP last night, and he knew he was going to have a good game. He did have a 98 mile an hour off the bat line out that went 300 feet to right field in the 5th inning as well.
Yeah.
He struck out and he popped out with men on base in the 6th and the 8th. But he had an RBI base hit too. So, it's not great what we've gotten from Ketel in September, but let's move on.
I was looking at some numbers in particular with runners in scoring position, and Ketel, since August 15th, has a 481 OPS with runners in scoring position. He has gotten on base a little bit. He has had some moments here and there, but when in the biggest moments of the game, when we're used to seeing Ketel deliver time and time again, he just hasn't really been able to get those big hits. So we'll see if that turns around for him in the coming days. If some of these hits, some of these hard line drives that he's hitting, maybe some of that will come in some of the big moments in the coming days. He'll start bringing that RBI total up a little bit. Well, we have more to get to here in this episode.
Mac. I love it.
What are you
I better
laughing
read
at,
an
Jack?
SI article tomorrow on my news app that Woodford is DFA.
Well, we'll see about that. We'll see about that. We are going to talk about the Sunday game, the finale of this series, which is very, very important, as well as some injury updates. I know you have some injury news to get to as well, Jack. So we'll be back right after this. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break here on Snakes Territory.
Hey, if you're a card collector or you're looking to collect, buy, sell, trade, Arena Club's the spot. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the old process, AJ, was very clunky. Buy a box, rip the pack, tons of commons, send it in for grading. And then finally, you get everything back. This is weeks and weeks, and you can start to try and sell the card. We have eliminated that with Arena Club, or they have. I act like I'm part of it. But in really one step.
Arena's your one-stop shop for everything. You get a card, you open a slab pack, the card is there, it's graded, it spins around coolly, shows you 3D, the front, the back, you can look at the corners, you can look at everything, and then you get a decision. Do I want to keep it? Do I want to sell it? Do I want to trade it? It gives you an instant offer. You can buy it back and re-rip another slab pack and try for something else, or you can keep it and hope the value goes up and sell it at a later date. It is truly the best spot to get cards.
20% off your first slab pack or card purchase can be had right now at arenaclub.com/FOUL and use code FOUL.
Jack, the Diamondbacks have one more game to play against the Philadelphia Phillies. It happens on Sunday afternoon, where the Diamondbacks will face Ranger Suarez, who's had a very, very good season. He goes up against Eduardo Rodriguez, who, of course, really struggled his last time out against the San Francisco Giants, gave up 4 runs in the first inning, did bounce back from that, retired 6 of the last 7 batters he faced, was able to get on a bit of a run toward the end of that outing. But you give up a 4-run inning, it's not really going to be a good start no matter what you do the rest of the way. So tomorrow's a huge one, as all these games are, Jack, and especially with Eduardo Rodriguez on the mound. I have to wonder how the D-backs are going to manage this game. How aggressive is Torey Lovullo going to be with maybe getting a Nabil Crismatt in this game if things aren't looking great for Eduardo?
I have to hope and think that he would be quite aggressive. I mean, Crismatt needs to pitch. I don't think you can just ice him like that. And they need to win. They can't take a chance. So if Erod struggles, then, I'll say it right now. It seems like it would be very short-sighted not to get him out of there quickly and go to Crismatt.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see if that happens. Or, I mean, of course, for the Diamondbacks, you would love for Eduardo Rodriguez to pitch great. And then maybe it's Nabil Crismatt getting a 3-inning save or something like that to finish out that game. That's maybe the way that you would draw it up. Jack, I know you have some injury updates after being out at the ballpark today. What should we know?
Well, I mentioned Saul Frank a little earlier. Andrew did not pitch again tonight. He's still battling that shoulder issue. The bottom line is he wants to pitch. He wants to gut things out. Torey said. And, we're going to see it through with him. But they, once again, did not go to him. And, instead they went to Brandon Garcia, or they could have gone to Saul Frank in the ninth inning. There were two of the first three hitters were supposed to be lefties. So, although probably would have seen a pinch hitter. So just keep your eye out for that. I don't know really if they're going to see Saul Frank pitch again, quite frankly. I'll believe it when I see it at this point. But Torey did admit that there's no point to put him on the IL because it's a 15-day IL. You put him on the IL now, you can't get him back. It's over. Another point of note was Tyler Locklear is still waiting to see Dr. Keith Meister. He hasn't seen him. I guess the good doctor is out of town on vacation, and he wants to see him in person. The key here, they know what the issues are, but last time I spoke to Torey about it, he wouldn't even say if the elbow or the shoulder was of greater concern. But when it comes to the plan going forward, he said one plan is conservative and one of them is surgical. And they're still trying to figure that out. So they're going to go talk to the surgeon to see if the surgeon wants to cut or if he wants to be conservative. We'll see how that works out. Then Torey also spoke about some of the Tommy John surgery players. Blake Walston has started a throwing program. He was the first player to go down with Tommy John. That happened in March, and he's begun a throwing program. Torey gave us the order of pitchers to begin throwing. A.J. Puck is going to come next, then Corbin Burns, then Justin Martinez, and Tommy Henry last. But no specific dates were given for when those throwing programs would actually begin. My guess is that, for example, A.J. Puck, he had his surgery sometime in May or mid-late May, which was almost 2 months behind Walston. So I would think that Puck probably doesn't start a throwing program until late October or early November. And then each pitcher will follow in, a period of time beyond that. One other point, Christian Mena had a setback. Oh, and I'm in the dark.
Hey, Jack is in the dark. We love it when this happens. I'm sorry, Jack.
We lost a light. Christian Mena had a setback. He was feeling some tightness in his shoulder, and so they pulled back from his throwing program. He had only been throwing off flat ground, and he will not be throwing on a mound, and he will not be pitching again this year.
Okay. Yeah, good to know. We could continue talking baseball for much longer, but now that Jack is sitting in the dark, and I want to make sure he can hopefully find his way back upstairs before they've turned off all of the lights and in the lowest floor of Chase Field. We should probably go ahead and get out of here. So thank you to all of you for being with us in this episode. We really appreciate you being with us. If you haven't already, be sure to drop a like on this video. It really helps us out. If all of you who are here with us live dropped a like on this video, that would be enormously, enormously helpful for us. Really appreciate that. If you're joining us after the fact, you can leave a comment that way as well. Of course, if you have not already, leave us a 5-star review over wherever you get podcasts in an audio-only setting. That is a great way to support the show as well. Jack does a great job covering the Diamondbacks, both in the light and in the dark at Chase Field. You can find his work over at si.com/MLB/Diamondbacks. And of course, you can find us on social media as well. I am at Jesse N. Friedman. Jack is at ShoeWizard59, and our show is at Snakes Territory. One final thought here for you, Jack. I believe it was the basketball and football guy who mentioned it earlier. We did see this exact pitching matchup between Eduardo Rodriguez and Ranger Suarez play out way back on May 4th. Erod didn't pitch great, but he pitched all right. 5 1/3 innings, 4 runs, 3 of them earned. He had 10 strikeouts. And the D-backs really got to Ranger Suarez in that game. He gave up 7 runs in 3 2/3 innings. It was his very first outing of the year. So who knows, Jack? Maybe things could look somewhat similar tomorrow.
Yeah, I think he's given up more than 3 runs twice since then.
That sounds about right. Ranger Suarez has had a pretty remarkable walk year and is probably going to get paid a whole lot of money this offseason as a result of that. Well, thank you again to all of you for being with us. We really appreciate your time, and we'll be back with another episode of Snakes Territory very, very soon.
Signing off.